Good morning. I am here to show you the dish I'm going to make today. I have a zucchini that I picked up from Aldi's along with some orange sweet peppers, some tomatoes, some mushrooms, onion, artichoke hearts, some olives, and of course tomatoes. So we're going to start this off by heating up some oil in a pan. Again, Aldi's extra virgin olive oil. Put a drizzle of that in here and get our pan heated up to medium-high heat. Now typically when you're cooking onions, you want to go low and slow. So we're going to get the heat up there and then we're going to turn it down and cover the pan so that the onions can caramelize. The recipe calls for minced onion, but I'm making more of a chunky sauce. So I've cut my onions a little bit larger, and one thing that helps them sweat is to add a little bit of salt. And typically I don't season with salt because I love salt and I would over salt it, so that's about all I use to just get these onions sweating and then caramelizing. And I'm going to put the lid on now and we'll give that a couple minutes. One thing about cooking onions, the whole house starts to smell like dinner's getting ready. So these are nicely caramelized now, and to this I'm going to add the artichoke hearts. Typically, and these are in a little bit of oil, marinated artichoke hearts, and the setting is still on low. So the heat in this cast iron cookware is nicely retained, and as everything softens up, I break apart these artichoke hearts into smaller pieces just so that when I serve it, you can just take a bite without having to cut into the sauce. Alright, so this is going to cook up pretty quickly. Again, softened very nicely. And now I'm going to add the peppers. And I cut them in just little rings. I found a nice way to use peppers is buy the smaller mini ones because you don't have to worry about having leftover already cut pepper, and this makes it easier to throw together a recipe. Alright, we got that going. Again, the heat is pretty hot even though it's on low. And now I'm going to add zucchini. Love zucchini. Oh boy, does it smell good. I'm going to throw the olives in. These are Castle Vetrano, my fave. That'll add a nice little bit of saltiness to it without having to add salt. And then I'm going to add fresh whole tomato that's been cut up. And the sizzling sound has dissipated because there's more ingredients in here now. The last ingredient is going to be a can of diced tomatoes. Now this will create a lot of liquid as all the vegetables continue to sweat, and after it's cooked for probably about 20 minutes, I'll decide whether I need to add any tomato paste to thicken it up. But this is a nice chunky sauce that's going to be served over pasta, and it'll definitely stand up to the noodles. So the last thing I'm going to put in while I let the ingredients simmer together are these beautiful mushrooms. I don't know which ones these are. There's a variety pack, and these are the long, skinny ones with the little buttons on top. I'll have to look that up and let you know in the next frame what this is. But as you can see, everything's kind of combining here very nicely. And I am going to add a little bit more heat, and I'm going to put the lid back on and let let that go for about 20 minutes. All right, I'll check back with you in a minute. Okay, so we're about 10 minutes in, and as you can see, this sauce is just bubbling away here, and all the vegetables are becoming nice and tender, but the liquid is still pretty runny, so I do want this to thicken up. So here's my little cheat, and that is tomato paste. And I don't need a lot of it, which is why I don't buy the cans. So I'm just going to squeeze out what amounts to be about, I would say, a tablespoon. And I'm going to add some filtered water. And I'm going to create a little paste that I can pour so it doesn't get clumped up into the sauce anywhere. The consistency here is still nice and thick, but yet a little bit pourable. And I'm going to add that to my sauce. And when I do that, I'm then going to turn the heat back down to low, give this another stir, and let it thicken up, and let some of the water evaporate out of the liquid, and still continue to tenderize all of the vegetables. I like my vegetables to still have some little bit of crunch. I don't like them too soft because that's mush. And so while I'm waiting for that to cook down, I'm going to show you another project that I've been working on here. And first of all, I'm so sick of the drip coffee makers and the K-cups. I just stopped drinking coffee recently because it's not satisfying anymore. And I went out and I bought myself this little stovetop Italian espresso maker. So really it's like a percolator. And I've always wondered how it worked. I thought, you know what, this was only 20 bucks. I'm gonna give it a shot. And today, that with my milk frother made a delicious cup of latte. So I had the lactose-free milk, which foamed up perfectly, fat-free also, and then a double shot of espresso, and this was just fantastic. So this is what I've been drinking while I've been cooking. And another project is with the sourdough starter that my daughter brought me this past 2 weeks ago. And from this, I've been able to keep feeding the starter and making other projects with it. So the other day I made buttermilk pancakes, sourdough buttermilk pancakes, and today, sourdough biscuits. So this is the dough, and it's kind of sticky. One of the tips to make flaky biscuits is to keep breaking the dough in half and stacking it so that it'll become real flaky and layered. And then you use your little pastry cutter. This is a Tupperware tool I got from a Tupperware party probably 40 years ago. But in any case, I'm going to break up this dough into smaller pieces, and then just, you might be able to see how they're kind of layered. I'm going to put them on a pan and put them in an oven preheated to 400 degrees for about 18 minutes, and I'll be able to enjoy that, probably adding a little butter to it. There's butter in the dough, but you know, who doesn't like butter on warm biscuits? All right, so here we go. Put the timer up to 18 minutes. Actually, I'll put it to 15, and then I'll check it at 15 and see if it needs 3 more minutes. And then back to this. Yep, this is thickened up very nicely. Oh yeah, this is great. Smells so good. Now, you'll notice I didn't add any seasonings. Some recipes will call for some Italian seasonings or some herbs of some kind. I do have a little bit of basil, so I'm going to add that, throw that in. I like basil and tomato together, and then I'll get the noodles ready, and that'll be the next frame. All right, so now we have put together a little bit of pasta and added the sauce on top. And I like to add a little bit of Parmesan cheese. Now this is the jarred version because I don't have any fresh Parmesan on hand, but this is the one that doesn't have the cellulose powder in it. So it's really just fresh grated Parmesan cheese. And I'm just going to add a little bit of that, and then let's see what it tastes like. So I'll get a piece of the artichoke hard and the olive here. That's so good. And the tomato. Perfect. This is really pretty healthy. You can use gluten-free pasta. You can also add things like carrots to make a sweeter sauce, but this is savory and it doesn't need any other ingredients in my opinion. And while we were waiting on that, 15 minutes was all it took to get these beautiful sourdough biscuits together here. So what we're going to do is show you how flaky these are. Fantastic. Flaky biscuits with, of course, a little bit of butter. Oh, and let that melt in there. Bon appetit. One other thing is that I don't like to store my food in plastic containers. Even if they say they're BPA free, I prefer glass. So when I'm out of the rectangles or the bowl shape, I use mason jars. And then this little handy device helps me get everything properly poured into there. And then for the next few days, anytime I need a snack or a meal, I can just dole out the proper portion and not have to do any cooking. This is good for a Sunday afternoon meal prep. Get a couple of meals together. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.